Today, we officially launch our annual Hays Asia Salary Guide, which explores trends in recruitment, industry-specific overviews, and salary insights, as well as recommendations for employers and employees as we navigate a new world of work. In today's presentation, we will place the lens on Malaysia and see how we stack up against 4 other key markets: China, Hong Kong, Japan, and Singapore. So before we get started, let me introduce myself and other speakers from Hays. My name is Sujin, and I am the manager for Hays Banking and Financial Services team at Hays Kuala Lumpur office. So I lead 12 consultants within the areas of investment banking, asset management, commercial banking, from front to back office positions. And today I will be your host and moderator for this webinar. So to start off, the first presenter who will be presenting the key findings from 2022 guide is our very own Tom Osborne, Managing Director of Hays Malaysia. Tom has over 14 years of recruitment experience, and during his time has recruited in senior finance while also managing sizable recruitment teams across the UK, Singapore, and Malaysia. Tom is now managing Hays Malaysia's operations, which has grown to 2 offices located in KLCC and Sunway with over 180 specialized recruitment consultants. So, following by presenting key industry insights in Malaysia will be Natasha Isha, Business Director of Hays Malaysia. Natasha comes from an engineering background and have had extensive recruitment experience. Upon joining Hays, she started building the banking and financial services focused recruitment business. Since then, Natasha has successfully expanded the business across 5 specialisms and is now leading the operations of our Hays Kuala Lumpur office in Malaysia. And finally, we have David Hedges, Business Director of Hays Malaysia, presenting our top recommendations for both employers and employees based on the guide. David began his career in recruitment in 2005 and has 15 years experience in recruiting, building teams and growing businesses in England, Singapore, and Malaysia. Now part of the senior leadership team at Hays Sunway office in Malaysia, David manages recruitment across 3 specialisms, namely accountancy and finance, human resources, and technology. So before I dive right in, I would like to begin with a quick introduction to who we are and what we do. Hays is one of the leading specialist recruitment companies globally and is currently the market leader in both UK and Asia Pacific. To date, we have employed over 11,500 staff across 265 offices in 33 markets across 20 specialist industries. In Asia, we continue to strengthen our position in 5 markets: China, Hong Kong, Japan, Malaysia, and Singapore. Additionally, we are the official recruitment partner of City Football Group and are the most followed recruiting and staffing agency on LinkedIn with over 5 million followers and counting. So we post industry news as well as tips regularly. If this is useful for you, please scan the code on the screen to follow us. So without further ado, let us get to today's agenda. In this webinar, we will share with you the key findings from this year's salary guide, which includes a market overview of recruitment trends in Asia, industry-specific insights, and our recommendations for both employers and employees in 2022. We are also joined by 3 guest speakers who will be part of our panel discussion for their key insights and their experiences in the world of work. Lastly, we will be ending the webinar with a Q&A session, so please feel free to submit your questions through the question panels on your right anytime during this webinar. If we are not able to get to your questions today, rest assured that one of our experts will get back to you via email. This webinar will be recorded, and the link to the recording will be sent to you along with a soft copy of the 2022 salary guide. Moving on. As mentioned, the insights we will share today are based on our annual Hays Asia Salary Guide, which is a definitive snapshot of salaries for positions across industries in Asia. This year marks the 15th edition of our guide, which includes overviews on salaries, recruitment, business outlook, and job seeker and employer sentiments. The insights and trends are based on survey responses of over 9,500 professionals in the 5 Hays operating markets in Asia. 36% of these respondents are hiring managers. So let us kick off with some key findings for Asia in 2022 and welcome Tom virtually.
Thank you, Sujeen. Well, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great, good stuff. Hope you're okay. Thank you and welcome to everyone who is joining us across Malaysia and Southeast Asia virtually for our Salary Guide launch webinar. I can't believe we've been doing these guides for 10 years now. The world's changed so much in that time, with COVID-19 having potentially forever changed our outlook on life, which will no doubt have a lasting impact on our workplace. However, good news is there are many reasons to be optimistic in 2022 and beyond. Although in an ever-changing world, I think we will all need to learn to change with that world for sure. Overall, 2022 looks to be a promising year for the businesses following the economic slowdown throughout the region when we battled with COVID-19 and the crisis there. This is really evident by how 69% of employers expect business activity to increase in 2022 compared to 55% last year. I think it's worth pointing out some of the survey results were taken a few months ago, and the positive business outlook and jobs market has generally strengthened even further in the early months of 2022. Obviously, just this month, there are challenges over the horizon on a global scale, and although I think it's too early for us to start to understand how this will affect us in this region. In fact, Malaysia respondents were the most optimistic about business activity increasing in 2022. China and Hong Kong respondents were more conservative with their expectations. Overall, fewer businesses expect business activity to decrease in 2022, just 7% compared to 17% last year. So generally speaking, we're all on the up. There is also a significant reduction in hiring freezes across Asia. 79% of respondents do not expect any freeze in hires this year. With more organisations returning to business as usual and even pushing into sharp growth modes, we can expect a surge in hiring activity, as evidenced by the jump in employees planning to increase their permanent staff levels this year. Knowing that more employers are planning to increase salaries in 2022 is a clear sign that we are well on the road to recovery. 29% of employees across Asia said salaries were lowered or unchanged in the last 12 months, compared to 19% who projected the same for 2022. Compared to other markets, more employers in China and Malaysia are planning for increments between 3 and 6%. Hong Kong, Japan and Singapore will see increments peaking at 3% on average. Look, it's important to note that this is what employers plan to do, but time will tell whether their staff members feel this is enough for them to stick around. Inflation globally will be a huge factor in our business outlook, and salary inflation will definitely be an inevitable knock-on effect of this. Early signs are that this may be a more significant shift than we've ever seen before, certainly for some time. Salary is still the strongest motivator for people looking for a new job or those choosing to remain at their current jobs. 73% of respondents across Asia reflected this as the top reason they're looking for a new job versus 58% in the previous year. This is likely due to stagnated salary growth as organisational budgets tightened over the pandemic. Other motivators also remained unchanged from previous years and mostly relate to career progression and other benefits. Looking at why people choose to stay at their jobs, the motivators are more aspirational, including work-life balance, work flexibility, and alignment of values and culture, although to a certain degree, these factors are now expected in all businesses. Talent attraction and retention strategies are of utmost importance given the skill shortages that continue to persist throughout the whole of Asia. 40% of organisations report a lack of confidence in hiring the skilled talent they need in 2022. This is concerning given the business's aggressive hiring plans as they focus on recovery and growth in the coming months. Asked why skill shortages persist throughout the region, the consensus was the higher compensation offered by companies as well as a lack of learning and development opportunities to upskill their current employees. Together with the findings on candidate motivators, it is clear that employers must continue to try and meet candidates' expectations for pay packages and provide the right growth and development opportunities to attract and retain the best talent. Nothing new there, it's been like that nearly every year. Now we'll move on to our findings throughout Malaysia, a little bit more closer to home. Along with the rest of Asia, Malaysian employers are upbeat about the outlook for 2022. As you can see, they are much more optimistic than last year, with 74% expecting business activity to increase. There is also a significant reduction of hiring freezes as a result of 50% of employees expect to increase their permanent staff levels over the next 12 months. The top 3 sectors that we found in which recruitment activities are expected to surge are technology, accountancy and finance, and engineering and manufacturing positions. The rise in opportunities will be welcome news to job seekers in Malaysia. Like the last few years, Malaysia registered the highest number of active job seekers compared to the other 4 markets we operate, with 39% actively looking for a new job and 46% being open to opportunities. However, it does seem like retention strategies of employers in Malaysia are starting to work, as there has been progressively fewer people determined to find a new job over the last few years. In 2020, over half the respondents reported actively job searching, and in 2021 it was 44%, so there has been a decrease this year. Primary motivators for candidates looking up for new roles remain unchanged from last year, even though more people are prioritising pay packages. When we look at drivers for those who choose to stay at their roles, work-life balance has taken a slight precedent over salaries compared to last year. So employer versus employee expectations. Given the importance of salary, let's take a closer look at compensation. From our data, we can see that wages are trending up in Malaysia in 2022 compared to the last 2 years. Only 24% of employers say they expect salaries to be unchanged versus 42% last year. Similarly, only 2% are planning for a wage reduction compared to 5% in 2021. Another indication of loosening budgets is evidenced by how many employers are planning for higher salary increments between 3 and 6%. More employers also plan to give bonuses, 61% compared to 42% last year. However, employees should know that the salary expectation gap remains, and as the data shows that more Malaysians expect higher salary increments than what employers are planning for. While this has always been the case over the years, with how people are prioritising pay and packages, employers might want to strive to meet their ideal candidates' expectations as much as possible. We're certainly seeing that when we place people into positions, the salary increments that they are receiving are higher than we've ever seen before. The skill shortages remain a challenge for the Malaysian businesses. This is critical given that 38% of employers in Malaysia said they were not confident about hiring the skills talent they need in 2022. When asked for the reasons behind the skill shortages in their organisations, nearly half employees surveyed attribute it to high compensation being offered elsewhere and losing staff. In Malaysia, a decrease in foreign workers throughout the pandemic, as well as entry-level and graduate workers struggling to bridge the skills gap required when joining the workforce, is providing a fast and furious battle for talent throughout the country. Secondary factors were the lack of learning and development opportunities for staff, the top reason last year, and the skills needed were too niche, too hard to source in the current market. In Hays, we've not seen a skill shortage so evident as the skills gap seen today. This will definitely have an impact on the productivity, growth and success of many businesses. On the screen, you can see some of the hard and soft skills that employers are looking for. Interestingly, Malaysia is the only country in which management skills emerged as one of the top 3 critical hard skills. Over the years, employees in Malaysia have leaned on contract and temporary staff to bridge skills gap. Top reasons for hiring temporary workers or contract staff were to meet peaks in demand, to cover extra workload due to legislative changes within industry and difficulty in finding suitable permanent workers. Contractors and temporary workers are primarily hired for their technical skills, such as programming languages and design programs or specific equipment or tools. They also for administrative skills and project management skills as well. We've also established earlier a desire for work-life balance is one on the rise amongst workers in Malaysia. I don't think anyone will be surprised by this. I think this reflects the trend throughout the world. Look, it's worth noting that employees consider the work they do from home to be an important factor. So the complexity around this subject goes way beyond just allowing workers to work from home, because in some cases, that's a non-desirable outcome for employees who prefer just to do work at work. However, only 40% rated their work-life balance as good or very good, the lowest number of respondents across the region. Malaysia also has the second highest number of professionals rating their work-life balance as poor or very poor after Japan. So it will be interesting to see how businesses look to improve over the coming year. Right, that's it from me. Now let me pass you on to Natasha for the industry insights for 2002. But before I do that, I would just like to express my thanks for all of those wonderful people at Hays. They've worked hard to ensure that we've been able to hold today's webinar. It's such a fantastic team. I want you to know I deeply appreciate your efforts in making this all happen. I'd also like to express my own personal thanks to the panel speakers as well, and adding an extra level of depth to this webinar. Right, I'll pass over to Tash.
Good morning, everyone. Lovely to join you on this webinar once again, in the interest of time. So now we're going to move on to some industry-specific insights for 2022. We've picked out 3 major industries to talk about today, which is accountancy and finance, engineering, manufacturing, as well as technology. But if you would like to find out more about the other industries and sectors, you can find an exhaustive list of insights across all other major industries in our guide. These were the top 3 industries where hiring will be a priority in 2022, according to the employers surveyed in Malaysia. First of all, let's zoom into technology. The technology sector is one where we will see rapidly strengthening demand for talent in 2022, not just in Malaysia, but across Asia and the world. This is also why we are launching Hays Technology in Malaysia, with the goal of enabling clients to close skill gaps and shape tomorrow's tech-enabled world of work. Stay tuned for further updates around that, or speak to one of our technology recruitment specialists for more details around this. Now, demand for tech talent has remained steady and resistant to disruption despite the pandemic, primarily because of accelerated digitalization and new ways of working. The continued acceleration and virtualization across all sectors will see businesses having to adjust quickly to ensure that there is a sustainability of needs, ever increasing data volumes, and faster computing and network speeds. However, this acceleration will increase new digital risks, and as people and organizations become more aware of them, the demand for cybersecurity and DevOps talent will surge. At the same time, commitments from the Malaysian government to advance the country digitally will also create higher demand for other tech roles. The planned investments in the digital economy and goal to create at least 500,000 jobs by 2025 will see more demand for highly technical roles within software and programming, data analytics, and robotics processing automation, also known as RPA. The expansion of industries like fintech, retail, healthcare, and green tech will also drive demand for the technical roles mentioned previously, as well as product development and management and UI/UX roles to improve general user experience. Moving on to accountancy and finance sector. Malaysia has in recent years become a hotspot for corporations to set up shared services center due to the low operating costs, as well as the availability of a multilingual workforce with growing finance and tech capabilities. As a result, we are beginning to see many of these traditional shared services center migrating finance transformation capabilities such as finance data analytics, process improvements, and RPA, among others, and in the process of transforming into centers of excellence to provide greater value to the business on a regional scale. At the same time, the rapid digitalization of financial services and growing prevalence of digital banking, fintech, and insurtech players in the market is expected to put automation firmly on the agenda of accountancy and finance businesses. As more businesses shift from manual environments and the use of automated financial systems and cloud-based technology gains momentum, we expect to see a growing demand for risk analytics and compliance talent with expertise in business intelligence tools. Finally, the engineering and manufacturing industry. With the global chip shortage expected to stretch through 2022, all eyes are on Malaysia to mitigate the production pressure on the semiconductor industry. Malaysia is a crucial player in the global semiconductor supply chain. About 7% of global semiconductor trade flows through Malaysia, and we own 13% of global chip assembly, testing, and packaging. The growing pressure will, however, lead to opportunities for businesses to expand their engineering teams, especially in research and development. Demand will thus strengthen for production engineer, R&D, and innovation roles over available talent pool, which will lead to intense competition for top candidates in these areas. At the same time, 2022 will also see a rise in engineering roles, especially within the renewable energy and FMCG industries, due to the increase in demand and production of electric car parts and solar and electric vehicle batteries, as well as essential goods such as medical devices and gloves. Finally, over to David to share with us the recommendations for both employers and employees.
Thank you, Natasha, and good morning, everyone. As we do every year, Hays has put together a list of recommendations for both employers and employees based on the results of our guide. Firstly, here are our recommendations for employers. It is critical for employers to manage the salary expectation gap, especially since a strong priority for 2022 is an increase in permanent headcount to focus on growth. This means that talent attraction and retention strategies are of utmost importance. Across Asia, employees are expecting higher compensation, but the reality is that most will see their salary increments falling short of expectations. One way to manage this is to compensate employees in other ways, such as revised bonus structures or additional benefits. Promotional or skills development opportunities or even flexible working options could also help to bridge this gap. Secondly, invest in recruitment marketing. We are in for a competitive talent market in the year ahead. And while compensation is clearly important, another factor that will prove to be critical to attracting high caliber talent is a strong employer brand. Consider also increasing investment in flexible recruitment solutions to supplement your existing workforce. Some advantages of flexible recruitment, aside of course from the labor cost savings, is the increased flexibility in talent pipeline planning and the access to highly specialized skill sets. Next, invest in your employees' skills development. Employers have the clearest view of which skills are required within the business, and so there is no one better place to develop a structured upskilling or reskilling program. This could involve investing in additional education or qualification programs, formal mentorship structures, or creating dedicated pathways to growth for employees. Given that career progression is one of the top reasons people are looking for new jobs or indeed choosing to stay in their current jobs, enabling employees to develop their skills could be an effective employee retention and attraction tool. Finally, work on improving work-life balance in your organization. So this means embracing new hybrid work models, developing policies that offer better work flexibility, as well as supporting employee mental health and well-being. After all, work-life balance and flexible working options are two of the top 5 reasons people are happy and choosing to stay with their current employers. After rolling out these policies, make sure to work on educating employees on options available to them. Okay, now for any employees and job seekers on this session, here are our recommendations for you. Demand for skilled talent is at an all-time high, which is great news and translates to massive career progression opportunities for candidates with the right skill sets. The key is to find the right window to make any career moves and to be prepared to justify salary expectations with a strong business case. The same goes for employees planning to ask for a raise. At the same time, employees should continue to develop their skills and competence, tailored to what their organization needs. Soft skills and digital skills are becoming increasingly critical in today's business landscape and are highly valued by employers. There is a range of paid or free certification courses available for candidates to develop their skills outside of work hours. Showing the initiative to upskill could also prove helpful in justifying salary expectations. Finally, consider negotiating factors other than pay. Non-financial benefits such as greater work flexibility or additional paid days off could help to improve fulfillment and satisfaction at work. With that, we have come to the end of sharing our top highlights for the 2022 Hays Asia Salary Guide. I will now pass back to Sujin.
Hi everyone, it's me again. Thank you, Tom, Natasha, and David for sharing the key insights of our salary guide this year. Moving on to our next part of the agenda, I would like to welcome our panel speakers for today, who will be sharing their insights as we delve deeper into the guide. So firstly, let me introduce Siti Norliza Muhammad Sahar. She has more than 20 years of working experience in human capital, from human resources to talent development, as well as driving graduates-related initiatives. She's currently the head of regional talent acquisition, Group HR with CIMB, and she leads the talent acquisition department and is always on the lookout for talent to be part of #Team CIMB. She also drives the digital and technology hiring strategy for young graduates. Welcome, Lisa. Next up, we have Lin Chi-Gay, whose career spanned 20 years of experience in HR, manufacturing, IT, and supply chain management, and is currently the group's CHRO and Executive Vice President for TDCX BPO Services. He has held management and board positions at the country and regional levels and managed teams in the US, Europe, and Asia. This varied experience has enabled him to reinvent and transform HR outside in during his career, with a focus on group-level HR transformation, employer branding, digitalization of HR processes, and operational excellence for sustainable growth. Last but not least, our final panelist, Dylan Visuvanathan, formerly the Managing Director of Johnson Matthey India, is a senior management and operations executive with more than 20 years of experience with a global leader in the chemicals and precious metals industry. An accountant by profession who moved into manufacturing at a local conglomerate before going on to work for Johnson Matthey in Malaysia. His ability to engage, establish rapport, and credibility throughout the organization have been instrumental in breaking impasses that were inhibiting growth. So now let us welcome our three panelists virtually, Lisa, Chi-Gay, and Dylan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting and having Sujin.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, I'm waiting for Chi-Gay. Is Chi-Gay on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Can you see me?
I can't. Oh, yes, I can see you right now. Okay, so without further ado, let me just dive straight into the questions. The questions that I will be asking today will be revolving around these 3 points. Firstly, salary and skill trends that we are seeing this year. Secondly, any best practices on well-being of employees. And third, any digital transformation across the organization and within the world of work. So for the first part, under salary and skill trends, I would like to direct the question first to Chige. In our salary guide survey, we are seeing that organizations in Malaysia are expecting salaries to increase from above 3%, but less than or equal to 6%, at around 32%. Do you foresee that do you foresee a similar salary trend happening against your industry? And how do you think compensation and benefits will be evolving in the future?
Sure. Jean, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending today's session, and thank you, Hays, and congratulations for your 2022 salary launch, 2022 salary launch. So let me go back to your question, Sujin, about the trend. It's quite consistent with the sharing, the way we see it in the BPO. As you know, we are in the TD6, it's actually a digital customer experience in the BPO space, and mainly almost 90% of business are new economic clients. We have seen quite a uptrend in the salary, our salary metrics, and it's pretty much prominent and also obvious that employers are looking for better opportunity, and it's just a matter of a phone call or an interview scheduled through the webinar or through the online that enable them to find a better job. And salary has become one of the driver for the change. Of course, I always say career development is one of the driver, but right now salary is one driver, mainly because we are in a pandemic situation and almost at a recession stage. So that is so obvious that this is the trend. So in our industry, we see the upper trend. In fact, we have revised the salary metrics for almost all the job and all the metrics, not only in Malaysia, but across TDCX.
I see.
But we are also mindful of the costs as we continue to make those changes, right?
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say that and now it's also obvious from the finding of Hays, but we also had noticed it even 6 months ago or a year ago, because we got a feedback for candidates that our competitor are offering a better salary and so on, although they want to work for us and we need to match a salary.
Yep.
So that is one area that is easy for us to make a salary metrics changes, but then we need to be mindful that our overall cost increase and how we are continue to be able to productive or doing more for less. We are also looking into observe that the benefit portion, especially on the wellness and health, is one of the item that our candidate will be asking. And that is also the area that we want to make sure that it's attractive for candidates and we are not fall below the market. We also see that there is a request of working from home from the candidates. And of course, we have in TDCS, we have offered the permanent and also a hybrid option for our candidates. So those are the things that we have seen in terms of the shift. And the other shift is also we are seeing a more of question regarding work from home allowances. And of course, for us, we are also making a shift between travel allowance versus working home office allowances. So those are the things that we have seen in our industry, and it's quite aligned to the Hays finding.
Okay. Thanks, Shige. I definitely think well-being practices is a big topic and which we will also be touching on later. So how about Dylan? What do you think about this? Do you think that there's a similar salary trend that has been happening in your industry?
Sure. Thanks, Sujin, for the question. Now, prior to the pandemic, I think the auto industry probably saw about a 5 to 6% sort of increase. Obviously, the pandemic sort of drove these numbers down, but as things kind of improve after the pandemic, stakeholders being a lot more upbeat about the market, we will see an uptrend. And I think a 3 to 6% increase, as highlighted earlier, is a fair estimate of the number. Obviously, it's going to be driven by, obviously, and then if you look at the future, it's going to be driven by inflation as well, to a certain extent.
Yep.
Now, from my perspective, we cannot see the rate increasing higher. Okay, good, being higher. From a future trends perspective, I think salaries, I think, and allowances. You'll see in salary increments, you will see bonuses, you will see the sort of normal stuff that you would see in what organizations have been doing in the past. Hospitalization, PA coverage, the healthcare sort of insurance that will continue, and I think that will kind of stay where they are. That's my personal view. Okay. Now, the biggest change from my perspective is the way of working. That's what's going to happen, and you'll probably see a lot more organizations moving towards flexible working, hybrid working, or even compressed working. Going from maybe 5 days of work week to 4 days. Now, that's a very interesting point. I talk about compressed working. I looked at this over 20 years ago, and the organization that I was working for was really a small, it was fairly new, small, and it had a very, very young local workforce back then. So we wanted sort of longer working hours because of the continuous batch processing that we had in that plant, and we thought we'd have a 3-day weekend. Great, right? Everyone thought it was great. The senior people kind of thought, okay, that would be a great thing to do. But that was on the contrary, and surprisingly, a lot of the workforce at the plant level, the operator level, said, no, we don't really want to do this. We didn't want this longer working hours during the day. Yeah. We can have this 3-day work week because, and so you got to remember, so the mindset of this young team that we had was they were young individuals living at home or just married, and they didn't want to stay home because they kind of saw that if they stayed home, they had to do housework for their mom or their wives. Interesting. But obviously things have changed, right?
Yeah.
The country's, sort of matured, people have matured, and I think this is what people are demanding and people are looking for in terms of the future. So I think that's where we're going to go to in the long term, and that'd be great. I think that'd be great. So that's my sort of take on where we are.
Okay. Thanks so much, Dylan, for sharing. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question in the interest of time. Maybe perhaps Lisa, you can also share your thoughts about this. And another key insight we have drawn from our guide is that 51% of working professionals in Malaysia have said that salaries have become a top priority when it comes to staying with their current employer, with 75% of Malaysian employees looking for better salary packages with the new employer. What are your views on this? How do you bridge this gap between what the employees want and the capabilities of the organization?
Thank you, Sujin. First of all, thanks so much for inviting me. And I want to lead for me to also wish Happy International Women's Day to our very important part of the workforce, the women workforce. So I think it will be a sin if I don't actually put that out here. So I think the question that you have, salary will always be one of the top priority. I think if you can, I think you can agree with me, Sujin, for the the 10 years that you've actually conducted the survey, I think it's going to be, it may not, it's like the ranking will interchange, it's going to be interchangeable, but salary will always remain one of the top 3 at least. So one thing that we discover over the years, apart from salary, because it's looking at salary in a more holistic manner. So it's not just about the basic pay, it's the whole compensation package, because at different stage in life, we would want different things. And I think even as I progress in my career, when you start in your career, you may not be married, you have no kids, so maybe medical is not priority. So other things in life may be a priority. So I think it's more like a mixing and matching. So it can be like a more holistic package on top of the the salary that we can actually offer. So from there, the expectations can actually be met by both sides, because obviously any employers, it always a bit about the hitting the P&L, the cost, the bottom line, things like that. So they, one of my ex-bosses always tell me that there's more than 9 ways to skin a cat. So there's always a in order for us to have a win-win situation, at the same time to keep people motivated. So I think many employers, CIMB included, we are moving towards a more mix and match, a more like a hybrid kind of arrangement when it comes to the overall compensation package. So we hope that maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, based on the surveys that are going to be conducted continuously, we're going to start to see the shift in the trend. So perhaps one of the rather than just when you do the drop down when it comes to like doing the survey and all that, one of the options, instead of just focusing on salary per se, perhaps it will also be useful to start really drilling and grilling down into what are other important parts of package or compensation package that people will look at. And it will be more interesting to see when you cut and slice the data from an age perspective. Again, like what I mentioned earlier, different parts and the phase of life would require different priorities and different kind of commitment. Yeah, so I hope that I answered the question, Sujin.
Yes, thanks so much for the insight. I think definitely we will be taking note on all these preferences, where how can we actually make the data more relevant to the employers out there. Okay, so maybe moving on to the next question. So I guess this question is also for you, Lisa. As a recruiter, it is my job to actually match the right candidates to the requirements of the clients. But sometimes I do find that there's an upskilled candidate with about 5 years of experience, just as qualified as someone who has about 10 years of working experiences. So what is your take on this, and are organizations ready to take on younger, skilled talent?
I think this is the topic I'm very passionate in, because I always believe that if you don't grow your own timber, the talent cycle and talent ventilation is not going to be sustainable. So obviously, in any organization, there's going to be like external hiring and internal hiring, and that's where the development part comes into play. So I think it's very important to strike the balance for both, while we look for skill set that may not be available in our current bench strength. We also need to make sure that internal pipelines are continuously to be there and not dried up. So like in CIMB, we very much we are really a believer of really growing our own timber and building our own talent. So I think one clear example, we have the Complete Banker program, which has been going on for the past, I think, more than 15 years. We are now already at our cohort 56. So that's how, because if we were not serious about really building our talent internally, especially giving opportunities for the young ones, right, for the new generation, for the future leaders, I don't think we're going to be sustaining the program. If we want to look at like for a short way out, we just plug and play talent coming from external. And to evolve around that, I think one of the things that was also shown in your survey earlier, the pressing needs of tech talent. So in 2019, we started the Complete Banker Digital. So gone are the days that come to a bank, you're just going to be an investment banker, finance related, or even accountants and those kind of skill set along those lines. So tech or digital, I think, is the way to go, which is not really unique for CIMB or for banking per se. So I think every companies are actually looking for tech talent. So because of that, I think it's very important, it's very pertinent for us to start building the talent from within. So we started, and this year is going to be our 4th cohort of the Complete Banker Digital. So this is more like a specialist track, like leadership track. So it's more really building our subject matter expert in the particular domain. So other than that, I think it's quite standard across many companies, but essentially it's always about making sure that the talent pipeline, as much as we want to hire for external, internally we are also taking care of the development needs, so that can also be a feeder to other positions that we have. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting to hear what CIMB has actually prepared for the young graduates. Fun fact, I've actually applied to that program before, but unfortunately I wasn't selected. So, but yes, I've definitely, so I've definitely heard of this TCB program. Yeah, it's really good. Chige, do you have any thoughts about this? Like, I believe your your organization has also hired a lot of young talent.
Sure, yes. So if you ask us, we have 95% of our workforce are Gen Y and Gen Z. Just give you an example, last year we hired 11,000 headcount in the company. And this year alone, just 2 months, we have been hiring 1,400, and we still have 3,000 vacancy to be filled.
Wow.
And definitely getting, there are a lot of applicants that are applying the job, but then to find the right people is not going to be an easy, and that's the reason why right now we are focusing a lot of fresh graduates. We used to hire a lot of experienced hired, and almost 70 to 80% of our workforce are experienced hired in before the pandemic and even during the pandemic. But we noticed that for years to come, one of the ways is for us to be more strong in hiring a fresh graduate and train them and to the level that the job require. That's one of the strategy. And to be able to continue attract the young talent, we will continue to be active in university and even a career fair. We just had a last week career fair in Mid Valley. Of course, more than 10,000 what we call walking candidates across the booth, and we do have a lot of candidates looking for job. So I think we do have a talent, but I guess we need to be mindful that we might not be able to find the ideal candidate, and we need to train them. And these are the youngsters where we need to be able to tap on, and that's the reason why I call out just now that how we can continue to imagine our compensation and management for the youngsters. And that's what we are going, including the employment type, that how do we attract our youngsters with our value proposition, employer value proposition. And for TDCX, our employer value proposition be more. We always use the word be more. What can you do be more with TDCX on asset? So it's a lot to do with their career and how we can help them to make their dream come true. And that's our promise. Okay.
I see. Okay. I guess also one thing to add on or share is that I guess hiring younger talents will also have an advantage to your cost. Like it would be a bit more affordable, I guess, in a way. Okay, so the next question that I would like to actually post it to all panel speakers is because we've seen one of our salary guide findings is that there are certain hard skills and soft skills that are really in demand. For example, analytical skills, management skills, communication skills. So I would like to ask all of you, like, if you were to name one hard skill or soft skill, or you can name both, like what would be the most important skill sets that you find that's really lacking and you think it's very important in this current times? Perhaps we can start with Dylan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's quite kind of an interesting question. I mean, I think from a soft skills perspective versus hard skill, like, in any organization, you'll need both, right? For sure. Hard skills and soft skills. But if you sort of split it up, hard skills, what are people looking for? Organizations kind of look for, obviously technical skills, management skills, I think that's, and project management skills. If you got projects to run, be it a production plant or be it, anything else, you will need project management skills. I think that's kind of the key, and I don't think very many people have that. But from a soft skills perspective, I think the two areas that I think people can sort of look at is problem solving. That's a big area, and I've seen that time and time again, where there is a struggle in organizations when it comes to problem solving. The various different ways to problem solve. That's a big one. And then the other one, which is quite interesting, I think we see in the survey, it says communication, but I'm sort of thinking presentation skills. How you present is key. I mean, I've seen this in, obviously in our education system from the days when we used to be at school, none of these things were kind of taught. But there are some syllabuses, some of the international syllabuses that actually teach presentation skills. I've seen them at really of high standard. So if and these are sort of life skills that people kind of learn as kids. If you kind of go to this, if you study the syllabus. So these are things that are kind of key because you will use it when you get older. Later on. So yeah, these are kind of two things I think from a soft skills perspective. Problem solving, that's a big area I've seen time and time again, and presentation.
Okay. Chige, do you have any thoughts about this?
Sure. As I mentioned just now that last year we hired 11,000 and we have 123,000 database. So, and we still miss almost 1% of on-time delivery. So in other words, we still cannot find candidates even after 2 to 3 months. And you look at that, I always call eligibility and suitability. And of course, certain reason behind that is on the eligibility is the hard skill. So when we look into the hard skill, it's more about the emerging skill, especially on the technical skill, the IT skill, like we need a fire-based experience. Not many developer or even mobile application have the experience in fire-based, for example. So those are the things that we find that is difficult to hire, especially even if coupled up with communication. So when it comes to suitability and also on the other, in fact, for us, communication is also considered as a hard skill because we require in their job. And that's also the one that I wish is not a constraint, but it's continued to be a constraint. Even we have 133,000 database for just an active applicant for the one last year. We still out 123, we can only hire 11,000. So communication continue to be also a constraint, which I hope that even in 21st century we shouldn't have this problem, but it's continued to be a problem. But other area that we are looking at right now in the soft skill, as I mentioned earlier, that we are moving on our work type. One of the work type that we're moving on is work from home and work from office versus work from office, and we have to move from other work from home and also hybrid model. And we noticed that one of the required skills that have emerged, and how do we continue able to use behavior and assessment to find out, number one, how are those candidates able to productive and trustable and independent to work from home? That's one question that pretty much that we are now interviewing to make sure that people are independent to work from home, not watching TV, and able to discipline between work versus family. The second one, the agility and resilience. That will be required because it's going to be a work-life, not so much of what I call work-life balance, but it's more of work-life integration, that they are able to be more agile in the working hours. They are able to be more resilient in how to address a situation, especially when you need to be in office, then tomorrow you need to be working from home, to be in more resilient in the event, and also are not fearful. I know that COVID-19 have also impact performance of the people. How to continue to build resilience that crisis and pandemic will not have any impact to the productivity or even the mental health of our employee. And those are the skills, those are what I call a soft skill that have emerged over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's really interesting that I think more and more organizations are introducing these kind of behavioral assessment. I think that could be another area for all employers to look at as well, so that you can actually filter through the kind of candidates that you want to hire. For Lisa, do you have any quick thoughts about this?
I'm going to steal one of Dylan's response just now. So one is, of course, the problem-solving skill. I think when it comes to soft skill, regardless whichever role that you are in, I think that is very critical. So I think gone are the days whereby we just want, like a yes boss kind of employee. We want someone to articulate the thoughts and give views and opinions and things like that. So if we were to look at it from a technical skills perspective, I think particularly like CMB specifically, we are moving towards what we call the hybrid skill. So as much as you can actually, when it comes to data analytics, as much as you have that data analytics technical competency, but what's more important is actually how do you translate the data into meaningful proposals or meaningful options and things like that. Again, I'm going to cheat a bit. I know you said 1 + 1, right? I'm going to plus another one. So because I think one of the things that which is very pressing and very critical is actually the sales skill, especially when it comes to CIMB. I think one of the things that we are really trying to hire would be our relationship managers, who's going to be serving our clients and things like that. So I think even when we reach out to the likes of Hays, I think that's one of the things apart from, I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on technical, we forgot about that part. It's trying to really strengthen our sales force. So because of that, we also started to build our timber for that. I think we're the first bank who started this junior RM program. So I guess that would be another skill that is very pressing for us to really drive the organization forward. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your insights. Okay, so we move on to the hot topic for this year or last year, which is well-being best practices. I think Chige earlier on has already mentioned that your TDC has actually introduced some work from home allowances and looking into other kind of benefits. So how does your organization go about ensuring employees are coping well during this time, but also maintaining productivity? I'd like to hear from Chige, Dylan, and also Lisa. Yeah, maybe we'll start with Dylan.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So in my last posting, I was actually on an expat. So I remember India. So I'll give you an example of what happened when we had this whole pandemic kind of hit us. So I happened to be back here in Malaysia during that week, and when the pandemic was actually kind of declared. So I couldn't go back. There was no flights. Everyone was kind of working from home. Essentially, what I was kind of doing was then having to work remotely in Malaysia, right, with a team in India, my senior managers being at home, staff being at home. And the first thing that comes to your mind is how do you keep in touch with your team? At the end of the day, we are all kind of social animals who need to communicate, interact with people all the time. And so the first thing that came to mind was, okay, what do we do? So what we didn't do was, so we said, okay, let's organize a daily meeting on a weekly basis. On a daily basis. 8:30 in the morning. There was a discipline, religiously have this meeting with the plant, with the project team, because I was also building a new plant in India. And this was sort of a cross-functional meeting, sharing, basically what we did was it was cross-functional meeting, sharing the sort of COVID data with everyone, what was happening in the country perspective, what was happening in the site perspective, because the whole idea was to give people the platform to kind of talk, because it was kind of difficult times, and especially when I was in India, people were, getting sick. There were no hospital beds. So when you had team members who were sick, who needed support, we would use that platform to get people that kind of support. It was also a platform, and then we also have meetings that are done outside of that meeting where we do one-to-one conversations with staff, because we had young group of people maybe living alone. Just call them up, say, hey, how are you doing? What's the situation? Do you need any help? If you're sick, let us know. So doing that, we provided things like oxygen concentrators. This meeting was a platform to talk about that. OHD, occupational health doctors training we were given online. Breathing, because it was such a bad situation there. Now, what it did was, I think what it did with that was staying in touch with a team made a huge difference, on a daily basis. I think, I think the team was really, really, really appreciative. And I think it goes beyond salaries and allowances that you would give teams. And it actually builds trust, openness, and sort of builds that loyalty with the organization, So that helped. And from a profit perspective for the company, okay, when operations and production started, we also did that. We looked at numbers, monthly numbers, we dissected it into daily numbers, and then we kind of followed up with the numbers, make sure we're meeting customer needs, we made sure we are also meeting our profit targets. And we did that daily. We did that for 2 years daily. And we did that as well. So we could actually sort of bridge what the company requirements were with the needs of individuals at a site level, making sure there was that, not making sure, but we kind of built that trust and openness and that loyalty with our team members as well. So that was kind of, I think that was probably the most important thing when you go through this thing, and that whole communication.
I see. The constant check-in is very important. Yeah.
Very, very important.
Okay. Thank you. How about Chige? Like how does TDC?
Yeah. I think I just want to take a little bit context at the big picture. Over the years, we, of course, all organizations are looking at to measure employee experience, engagement, and productivity are being measured and able to improve, and that is what a lot of organizations. But today, I think one other area that will continue to emerge out is healthy organization. I'll just give you a context. I was an hour ago, I was in a meeting. There was escalation on resources that immediately needed for today, because 5 out of 7 team members are out due to COVID positive, and they need immediate resources. How do we handle this situation? And I see that they will continue to be more frequent than before, because number one is it's contagious and it's easier to spread, especially with COVID-19, and you can have a whole team down. Just not even they are working from home, you can still have the whole team down. Can you imagine how serious it will be when people are working from home? So in this case, everyone is working from home, but then 5 out of 7 are COVID-19 positive. And they are going to be out for 5 days, and they need resources. So this is what I see will continue to happen. How organizations continue to be able to have this portion and continue to be engaged and productive and able to measure. And that's going to be very, very key, measurement and focus, because if not, the organization will be having so-called performance, organization performance issue later on, where the company are not meeting the bottom line business expectation. And for us as the HR, it becomes very, very important. And one of the things that very, very important is to be able to measure productivity on more real-time data. That's why data insights, for those who are not involved in digital transformation, that will become very, very important. And TDCX have a data insights in every angle, including productivity, and also the other one, including absenteeism, and the other one is on the engagement, fast pulse. And you can still see a lot of organizations having fast. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, because I saw there's unmuted, so I'm not sure. Okay, can I continue?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's very important for us to be able to know our employee engagement, especially people are working from home, and have a. I just call out that apart from frequent survey on engagement, the other portion is that in TDCS we have 30 minutes session of wellness and mental health. And we have a mental health counselor. Of course, we have external, which is usually the employee assistance program that most organizations have. But we also have involved a structure of our own wellness counselor, and that person is doing a weekly type of a session. Of course, there's a one-on-one session, but it's also a weekly session focusing on mental wellness and mental health. Because how do we continue to that our employees are healthy, and that's the reason why I mentioned that we have a lot of data insight on absenteeism. We have a lot of data on productivity, even lost day, and that is going to be very, very important. And there's going to be also a role that will continue to evolve in terms of wellness counselors in the years to come. And so technology and new roles will continue to evolve as we are continue to make sure that organizations are engaged, are productive, at the same time healthy, not only physically but mentally.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
That's all I have. I just want to pause it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chige. Lisa, do you have any thoughts about how TNV is, coping with this working from home and the well-being of employees?
So I think the good thing is we started thinking about or even trying to execute this hybrid working arrangement even prior to COVID, and mainly because it's driven by the the attraction of talent. Because I think one of the questions now are being asked, how flexible we are in terms of like allowing our workforce to work remotely and not necessarily in the office. So we already started drafting some plans remote and all that. So in a way, it's like getting a head start even prior to the pandemic. And one thing that we also experimented because we have our employees, we are present in 16 countries, and obviously we have like hundreds of branches across the nation. So how do we make sure that when it comes to onboarding, when the first day that you are joining as part of Team CMB, for you to be, and that welcoming should be consistent regardless from where you are going to be, working. So we started our virtual onboarding. It's the same consistent messaging. Everybody will be logging on at 8:45 a.m. on their first day. So we started actually in January, prior to the January 2020, prior to the pandemic. So I think that's one thing that we have done. But I agree, I think with Dylan and also Chike, it's not really easy because we are social. A lot of us are social butterflies. We just have to have that kind of engagement, that kind of face-to-face and all that. So how do we make sure that employees and our peers, our colleagues, our team members continuously to be engaged? So I think a lot of activities that were done, some are more towards a serious part. When we are talking about mental health, we have our partnership with Naluri, making sure that people are getting the right support, the necessary support, and giving them the confidence that everything is going to be, PNC, even HR wouldn't have access to those kind of information. So just like a ventilation for them to really speak to someone, they need those kind of support. And the fun part is more towards the engagement bit. I think we did quite a bit in terms of like somewhat related to health, like step challenge. So we have our monthly step challenge, who ranks the top 5 or top 10 in the organization. And then we also have our CSR activities, when the flood started, how can we also contribute our locations and things like that. So I guess this is where, especially for HR, our creativity comes into play. How do we keep our workers engaged without having to have physical presence? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. I think one thing that I can definitely relate is like for Hays as an organization, we have also formed a Hays Cares committee, which I am also part of. And what we do is we actually roll out, projects every month just to make sure that employees are engaged. And one of it is the 30 days mental wellness challenge, where we curate a list of tasks, simple tasks like, call a friend, go out for a 10 minutes walk. And as an organization, we do it together so that we are accountable. And I think that is part of the efforts of organizations to make sure that employees are being taken care of mentally, as well as to make sure that productivity is still there. Yeah, but I do think that, yeah, employees, I think Chige has mentioned that having the ability to measure productivity in the organizations is very important. And that also ties in with the next topic that we are going to they are going to discuss, which is digital transformation. And it is a hot topic, I think, over the recent years as well. Yeah, I think throughout the banking and financial services industry, as well as other industries as well. And Malaysia has been an important international hub for startups, shared services, and even a technology hub. So according to our salary guide, 56% of Malaysian organizations are looking at restructuring their departments or organizations to keep up with changing business needs and employment landscapes in 2022. So would like to really hear from all of the panel speakers on, what does digital transformation look like for your organization? Because I believe every organization has different stages. So it will be very interesting to know what does it look like to you, digital transformation. Yeah. Right, we can start with Chige.
Sure. So if you look at our company alone, we have grown significantly at the area of the digital innovation function and also the data analytics function. So that is a testimonial that the effort that putting in on the digital transformation has even become more aggressive than before, even the journey that we started many years back. But and we can see the fruits of it today. As I mentioned, we are able to hire 11,000 and able to filter 133,000 without anyone working from office. So that is how digital enable us to operate without any business interruption. So that's the one. But we see that in the years to come, it will become much more critical. As I mentioned, data analytics will become much more. There are two things that you all have touched base. It's going to be very important, with flexibility and data. So right now, we are not only driving, I think it's very easy to drive our digital innovation and our data analytics team, and because they are doing the role. But how do we continue to build a digital culture in the organization? And this is a journey that we are going in, so that everyone are very digital savvy. Everyone will look into the process and digitizing their process using the data and consulted and having the data to be able to consult that in their everyday decision. And that is what we are driving in terms of digital mindset and culture. And this also aligned to some of the findings. So that's one area that we are getting into it. And of course, in terms of the investment on digital, it has accelerated over the years. And even for this year, so even from the headcount, even from the number of tools that we are implementing. The other one is on the flexibility. As I mentioned, that flexibility is a journey, it's not a destination. And that is going to be very key for HR. And that's why in TDCX, we love youngsters, because we want people to be more agile, we want people to be more recent. It's not that we don't want people older, the senior, don't get me wrong, but we are open to have more youngsters in the organization to drive the digital transformation much more aggressively. And one area is that we also want to have a flexibility and our digital transformation to be able to address that at any one time, our organization can be 100% working from home, using all the collaborative tools, using all the technology to enable us to do HR transaction, to do sales transaction. And you know that today we notice that more digital sales role, digital marketing roles compared to field sales role, and also the traditional agency. And that is the area that we are continuing to evolve, especially content moderator and social media. It's also that the role that we have seen grow significantly in TDCX. And to win the war is also, for example, for HR, is we are very active in the social media, and you can see even TDCX. We think that we don't do enough. We think that we need to do more. And we think be more flexible in driving every single changes today. Not only for the employee, like what I mentioned, how do we able to transform for allowing people to work from anywhere? How do we make sure that employment contract now, not only for permanent, we do have freelancer, we do have people who are willing to work part-time. We want to have a returning working model. I talk about it in the International Women Day, the important and COVID-19 have let us realize that more job can be working from home, and that enables us to hire disability people that previously is much difficult for them to commute, more difficult than them to move around. The other area, returning mothers. How do we able to support returning mothers? And that create another pool of candidate for us into the book.
Yeah, thanks, Shige. In the interest of time, so we have 2 more minutes for Lisa and also Dylan to share your thoughts on, how this digital transformation look like for your organization, and what can employers do to make sure the workforce is ready.
I'll make it very quick, Sujin. I think from a service industry perspective, we can actually easily break it down to 2 areas. One would be the external interfacing when it comes to digital transformation, and second would be internal needs. How do we cater for that? So external interfacing is more changing the mindset of our customers. Digital is the way to go and is safe and things like that. So this is where the skill set that we require, especially when it comes to digital interfacing, the UI UX designer. You'll be surprised sometimes the complaints that we get from our customer. Why do I need to click 5 times? Why can't I just click 3 times? Those kind of things, just for them to get to the intention or the kind of transaction that they want. So I think that's more towards the external interfacing. The internal needs, I think, we want to make sure that we continuously to upskill our people. Making sure that they are the right skill set, and at the same time also allowing some flexibility. So what we started was actually Digital Data Academy, whereby it's like a stackable modules whereby they can actually pick and choose the kind of development or courses that they need. So it's not going to be like a one long 9 months kind of courses. So maybe you need analytics, couple it with sales. So that would be the hybrid training that you're going to go through. So it's not going to be like a very fixed, unless whether maybe you just need 3, but you still have to go through the whole 7 modules. So we don't practice that anymore. So I guess the change management part applies to both when it comes to interfacing with our customer as well as with our employees. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Dylan, any thoughts?
Yeah, just quickly. Yeah, from a manufacturing perspective, I think obviously with a plan, if you have a highly automated plan, great. That's one aspect of it. But I think the biggest thing will be in the support areas, shared services from a support perspective, sharing on both sides, that will be key. And I think lots of organizations are moving down that path, not only from an IT, but they're doing it from a procurement perspective, finance and HR as well. And then the pandemic has also proven to us that a lot of us can sort of work from home to a large extent, provide support services to these organizations, the plant, in building parts and selling these parts. So yeah, I think we're moving down that path. We will get there, but it will take some time.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. We will be moving on to the Q&A session. And we will still let Lisa, Shige, and Dylan to share some of your insights and some of the questions that have been posed. On the participants here, you can submit your questions to the questions panel on your right. If we are not able to respond to your question today, rest assured that one of our experts will get in touch with you and respond to you by this week. Okay, so one of the questions that I have actually seen is that can you share how employees' expectations is being managed, especially if not all employees are eligible to that hybrid work model? Because I'm sure in some organizations, you don't get everyone to have to work from home. So anyone can actually answer this question?
Okay, I think from CMB perspective, that's another area that we continue to quote unquote struggle with. How do we strike the balance? Especially people in our branches, our call centers, our collection centers, obviously, they don't get the flexibility to work from home. So how
Correct.
else can we compensate, and also how else can we also make them stay engaged? So perhaps being in a highly regulated sector doesn't help either, because then there's a lot of regulations that we need to abide to. So I think it's something that I must confess that we don't have an answer just yet. Something that we continue to explore the options available. Yeah.
Okay, understand.
I think just
Okay.
a quick one from my end to add on to what Lisa had mentioned. As I mentioned, we have a platform that enables employees to provide their engagement and their comments and suggestions at a weekly basis. I think that's where we have insight. So we use a lot of data insight. That's one. Number two, from our end, if we want to be more flexible, to be able to address those suggestions and concerns compared to previously. So we need to be more agile and able to reimagine any policy that needed to be changed. So that's and for us to be agile. Now, so that is one thing. And then for us to continue driving for having more with less. But for us to also have a mindset of be flexible, like working from home permanently, 4 days work. Those are the things that we're going to be more flexible in those areas.
I see. Okay, thank you. Another question is in regards to managing salary expectations, especially with the hybrid work model. Will we expect to see a reduction trend since there is some cost saving for employees? In contrary, there's also an argument that employers should transfer the reduction in operating costs and offer a better compensation package to the employee. So appreciate panelists' views on this.
From my perspective, no. Why should employees get less? I mean, I think employers are also saving from doing this hybrid or flexible working. So I don't see why there should be a reduction. Not at all.
So will these costs be transferred over to increasing their comms then?
That'd be nice. But it's going to be the cost of doing business as well, right? I think as an organization, you're going to have probably invest more from a digital perspective, electronics, digital perspective, providing maybe even providing people workspaces at home. This organization I used to work for was beginning to provide workspaces at home, tables and chairs. If people need, you were allowed to sort of work from home.
Okay, thank you. So another question that I find it very interesting is how do we manage high skilled or experienced talent that has already reached their common band ceiling? Because we have spoken a lot about younger talent and giving them the opportunities, but how about those who are already very experienced and have reached their so-called ceiling? Any thoughts from the panelists?
I can just add on. Of course, every salary has a max and a ceiling. And one of the things that as a HR, we're supposed to be able to know employee that are going to reach the ceiling and the Q4 quota. And the only way for them not to continue with ceiling is for them to be promoted and progress. So as we're able to address their performance, their development, that will enable them to be not reaching the ceiling and not getting any increment, for example. So it's a HR job, and it's also a manager job that to enable them to be able to progress to the next level. Because in the philosophy of common band, every job has a value. We just need to make sure they go to the next level value.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? I think apart from being promoted, I think moving sideways into different roles also helps because you sort of grow broadly in the organization and get a better view of the organization, which helps you get promoted upwards at a later point in time. So I think that's you add to your skill sets when you do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. And I do think that employers should also allowed the flexibility of skilled and experienced talents to move laterally across the organization because they are already very familiar with the organization. So because we are coming towards the end of our webinar, so I will close off the Q&A session, and if we haven't answered your questions, rest assured we will actually come back to you. Once again, I would really like to thank Lisa, Chige, and Dylan for your presence today. Thanks for your amazing input. Yeah, that wraps up our launch webinar for the 2022 Hays Asia Salary Guide. I would like to also thank Tom, Natasha, and David for sharing your key insights from the guide, our 3 panel speakers for your time and the excellent input. So this webinar has been recorded and will be sent to you to watch at your own time. On top of that, you will receive a soft copy of the guide within the next day, or you can scan the QR code here to download your free copy. So for more information regarding salary benchmarking in Malaysia and across Asia, feel free to visit our website www.hays.com.my/salary-guide or contact any of our Hays experts today. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Everyone
Suchi.
stay safe. Bye. Thanks, Eugene.
Thank you.
Unmuted.